Honeybees play a very important role in our daily lives, even though many people may not realize it. These tiny insects are responsible for pollinating a large number of crops that we depend on for food. From fruits and vegetables to nuts and seeds, honeybees help plants grow by transferring pollen from one flower to another. Without their hard work, many of the foods we enjoy every day like apples, strawberries, almonds, and even coffee would become much less available and more expensive. Aside from helping us with food, honeybees also support the natural environment. When they pollinate wild plants, they help maintain healthy ecosystems. These plants provide shelter and food for other animals, so bees indirectly support the survival of many other species. This makes honeybees not just important for farming, but also for keeping nature in balance. Over the past few decades, scientists and beekeepers around the world have noticed a worrying trend. Honeybee populations are going down. In many regions, especially in North America and Europe, there has been a significant drop in the number of hives and wild bees. Thank you so much for keep watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more content on bees, environmental conservation, and other important topics. Your support means a lot. This decline has raised serious concerns because it threatens food security, farming livelihoods, and biodiversity. People are now paying more attention to bees, trying to understand why they are disappearing and how we can help protect them before it is too late. In the past, honeybee populations were generally stable, and beekeeping was a thriving activity in many parts of the world. Beekeepers kept hives in their backyards or on farms, and wild honeybees were commonly seen in gardens and forests. However, things have changed over the years. In recent decades, there has been a noticeable decline in the number of honeybees. In some countries, especially in North America and parts of Europe, beekeepers have reported losing a large number of colonies each year. For example, in the United States, beekeepers have sometimes lost up to 40% of their hives over a single winter, which is much higher than what is considered normal. This decline is not happening the same way everywhere. In some parts of Asia and Africa, honeybee populations seem to be doing better, partly because of traditional farming practices and less use of harmful chemicals. However, these regions are also beginning to see problems as modern agriculture spreads. In places like China, India, and parts of South America, the pressure on bee populations is growing due to urbanization, pollution, and changing land use. It is also important to understand that there are two main types of honeybees, domesticated and wild. Domesticated honeybees are the ones kept by beekeepers in managed hives. These bees are often used for honey production and crop pollination. Wild honeybees, on the other hand, live freely in nature without human care. Both groups are important, but wild bees are often more vulnerable because they don't get the same protection or monitoring. Sadly, wild bee species are disappearing faster in many areas, and their loss can have a serious impact on natural ecosystems. The global status of honeybees is complex, but one thing is clear: both wild and domesticated bees need our attention and care if we want them to continue supporting our world. One of the major reasons honeybees are disappearing is the use of harmful chemicals in farming, especially pesticides. Pesticides are used to kill insects that damage crops, but many of them also harm bees. One group of pesticides called neonicotinoids has been found to be especially dangerous. These chemicals affect the nervous system of bees, making it harder for them to find their way back to their hives after collecting food. Even small amounts can confuse bees, reduce their ability to learn, and lower their chances of survival. Over time, this leads to weaker colonies and fewer bees. Neonicotinoids are often used by soaking seeds in the chemical before planting. As the plant grows, the chemical spreads to the flowers, and bees come into contact with it when they collect nectar or pollen. This means bees are being poisoned even when farmers are not directly spraying anything on the fields. Because of this danger, many countries, especially in Europe, have started banning or limiting the use of neonicotinoids to help protect bees. Besides neonicotinoids, there are many other chemicals used in agriculture, such as herbicides used to kill weeds and fungicides used to control mold that also harm bees. These may not kill bees instantly, but they weaken their immune systems, affect their reproduction, or mix with other chemicals to become even more toxic. When bees are exposed to several of these chemicals at once, the risk becomes much higher. Sadly, most modern farms rely heavily on these chemicals, making it difficult for bees to find safe places to feed and live. Reducing the use of harmful pesticides and switching to bee-friendly farming methods is a big step we need to take to help stop the decline of honeybees. Another major reason for the decline in honeybee populations is the loss of their natural habitat. Bees need a variety of flowering plants, clean water, and safe places to nest. But as cities grow larger and farmland spreads, these natural spaces are disappearing. Urbanization, the building of towns, roads, and buildings often replaces gardens, wildflower meadows, and forests with concrete and asphalt. This leaves bees with fewer places to find food and shelter. Even in the countryside, the situation is not always better. Modern farming practices often focus on growing just one type of crop over large areas. This is called monoculture farming. While it may make farming easier and more profitable in the short term, it creates big problems for bees. Monoculture fields bloom all at once and then offer no food for the rest of the year. For example, a huge field of sunflowers may be full of nectar for a few weeks, but once the flowers are gone, bees have nothing left to eat. This sudden shortage of food can be very harmful, especially for wild bees that rely on a continuous supply of flowers. Also, when fields are cleared for monoculture crops, the wild plants, bushes, and trees that bees depend on are removed. Hedges, flower patches, and grassy strips known as bee highways used to connect natural areas and allow bees to travel safely. Without them, bee populations become isolated in small patches, making it harder for them to survive, find mates, and move to new areas. Habitat loss and fragmentation leave bees struggling to find what they need to live, and if we don't act soon to protect and restore these environments, more bees will be lost in the coming years. Beekeeping or apiculture plays a big role in supporting honeybee populations, but not all beekeeping practices are helpful to the bees. In fact, some modern methods may accidentally harm them. Beekeepers often move their hives from place to place to provide pollination services for large farms, while this helps with crop production. The constant transport can stress the bees. It disrupts their natural rhythms and exposes them to new environments where they may face unfamiliar diseases or struggle to find enough food. Overcrowding of hives in one area can also spread illnesses more quickly among colonies. Sustainable apiculture focuses on keeping bees healthy in a way that supports both the bees and the environment. This means avoiding the overuse of chemicals inside hives, providing bees with a variety of flowers to forage from, and reducing unnecessary stress. It also includes breeding bees that are more resistant to diseases and pests rather than relying too heavily on medicines. Beekeepers who follow sustainable practices are more likely to maintain strong colonies over time. One of the biggest threats to honeybee health is the Varroa destructor mite. This tiny parasite attaches itself to bees and weakens them by feeding on their bodily fluids. It also spreads viruses that can kill entire colonies. If not managed properly, Varroa mites can quickly lead to the collapse of a hive. Other common threats include Nosema disease, a gut infection, and foulbrood, a bacterial disease that affects bee larvae. Beekeepers need to carefully monitor their hives and take action early if they notice signs of trouble. Effective disease and mite management, using natural methods whenever possible, is essential to protecting honeybee health. Good beekeeping doesn't just benefit the bees, it also ensures a stable food supply and a healthier environment for everyone. Research and careful monitoring are key to understanding why honeybees are declining and how we can help them recover. Scientists have discovered that bees, like all living things, need genetic diversity to stay strong and healthy. This means having a wide variety of genes within bee populations, which helps them fight off diseases, adapt to changing climates, and survive in different environments. However, in many places, bees have become more genetically alike due to selective breeding or isolated populations. This makes them more vulnerable to stress and sickness. To solve this, researchers are working on breeding programs that focus not just on honey production, but also on traits like disease resistance, behavior, and survival skills. At the same time, monitoring bee populations is crucial. By keeping track of where bees are thriving or struggling, scientists can spot problems early and find patterns that might explain changes. But since experts can't be everywhere at once, many projects now involve regular people through what's called citizen science. This means anyone from farmers to school children can help collect data about bees in their area. They might report sightings of bees, note what plants the bees are visiting, or observe the health of local hives. With the help of mobile apps and online platforms, this kind of shared effort has become easier than ever. Together, scientific research and public involvement create a powerful team. They give us the information needed to make smart choices, develop better beekeeping methods, and push for policies that protect bees. The more we learn and pay attention, the better our chances of saving honeybees and the many benefits they bring to our world. In different parts of the world, people have come together to protect honeybees, and some of these efforts have shown great success. For example, in Slovenia, a small country in Europe, beekeeping is a respected tradition and part of their national identity. The government there supports beekeepers with education, health monitoring of bees, and strict rules on pesticide use. They even started World Bee Day on May 20th to raise global awareness. Thanks to these efforts, Slovenia has maintained a strong honeybee population and inspired other countries to take similar actions. In another example, certain regions in Ethiopia have shown how traditional farming methods and forest conservation can help bees thrive. Local farmers grow crops without heavy use of chemicals and protect wild plants, which provide bees with natural food and shelter. Beekeeping is often practiced alongside farming, creating a healthy balance between nature and agriculture. This approach not only supports bee health but also brings extra income to communities. Even in highly developed countries like the United Kingdom, successful steps have been taken. In recent years, some UK cities have started planting wildflowers in public spaces like parks, roundabouts, and along roadsides. These flower-rich corridors provide food for bees and butterflies throughout the year. Schools and local groups have joined in, building bee hotels and planting gardens. Such small local actions have made a noticeable difference. From these examples, we learn that protecting bees doesn't always require big investments. It often starts with awareness, education, and community effort. The best practices include reducing harmful pesticide use, planting diverse flowering plants, supporting small-scale and sustainable beekeeping, and involving people in bee-friendly projects. These stories give us hope and remind us that with the right choices and teamwork, we can turn the tide for honeybees around the world to protect honeybees for the future. We need to make smart and caring choices that support both the environment and agriculture. One important step is moving away from heavy pesticide use and choosing safer methods to control pests. This approach is called integrated pest management. It means using natural enemies of pests, rotating crops, and applying chemicals only when absolutely necessary. By reducing the harmful effects of pesticides, we give bees a safer world to live and work in. Another challenge bees face is climate change. Rising temperatures, unpredictable weather, and shifting blooming seasons are making it harder for bees to find food and maintain healthy colonies. To help them cope, farmers and beekeepers can adopt climate adaptation strategies. This includes planting a wider variety of flowers that bloom at different times of the year, managing water sources for bees, and selecting bee species or strains that are better suited to changing environments. Raising public awareness is also key. Many people still don't realize how much we depend on bees for our food and ecosystem health. Schools, community groups, and the media can all play a role in educating others, teaching simple actions like planting bee-friendly flowers, avoiding toxic sprays, or supporting local beekeepers. When more people understand the importance of bees, they are more likely to help protect them. Finally, saving honeybees is not a task any one country can do alone. It requires a global effort. Governments, scientists, farmers, and everyday citizens must work together through international projects and agreements. By sharing knowledge, research, and resources, countries can learn from each other's successes and avoid repeating mistakes. A united effort can make a lasting difference. The future of honeybees is still in our hands, and by acting wisely today, we can ensure that these small but mighty pollinators continue to thrive for generations to come. In conclusion, honeybees play a vital role in our world, especially in pollinating crops and supporting the health of plants and ecosystems. Over the years, their numbers have declined in many regions, and the reasons are clear: harmful pesticides, loss of natural habitats, poor beekeeping practices, diseases, climate change, and a lack of genetic diversity. However, with growing awareness and scientific research, we now have a better understanding of the problem and the tools to solve it. The good news is that many countries and communities have already shown that it is possible to reverse the decline. By using safer farming methods, protecting natural spaces, supporting sustainable beekeeping, and involving the public in bee conservation, we can make a real difference. The success stories from around the world prove that change is possible when people come together with a shared goal. Now is the time for action. Researchers need continued support to find better ways to protect bees. Policymakers must create strong laws that reduce pesticide use and protect bee habitats. Farmers can play their part by planting more flowering crops and using eco-friendly practices. And each of us, no matter where we live, can help by planting flowers, avoiding harmful chemicals in our gardens, and supporting local honey and beekeeping efforts. Every action, big or small, counts. Saving the honeybee is not just about saving one insect, it's about protecting our food, our environment, and our future. Let us all do our part to ensure that honeybees continue to thrive for generations to come.